We're also waiting for City Manager Osorio.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was here. But I couldn't see him. It's a full screen. Come on in.
Just trying to fix my video.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Clint, do you want me to go ahead and start? Just open it up?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just go ahead and open it. Okay. Clint's just working on his video, so we can go ahead and get started.
Here we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I
Yes.
can't hear you.
Yes. You can't hear me?
But I can't hear you.
Can everybody else hear me? Just a thumbs up if you can. Paula, try your volume. Maybe hit your... What about now? Can you hear now?
Councilmember Francis, somebody's on their way to assist you.
I think she might be muted.
Yeah.
My audio. Mute my what?
And just a reminder, we are live.
Okay, thank you.
I can't hear anybody.
You still can't hear?
What did I do?
Well, we can hear you though.
Speakers, everything is on. See, where's the speaker over here?
I think somebody's gonna come help you out.
For heaven's sakes. All right, I'm good to go.
You good?
Yeah.
You can hear us okay?
Yeah. Yeah, my speaker's turned down.
You're good?
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened there anyway. I'm gonna try a little gremlin that does this with stuff.
Every now and
Yeah.
again. All right, good.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get started here. Open the meeting up here. So we're ready to begin the Gardena City Council, regular City Council meeting for Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Serta.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Here.
Councilmember Tanaka.
Here.
Councilmember Cascanian.
Present.
Councilmember Francis.
Here.
City Manager Osorio.
Here.
Chief Safel.
Here.
And City Attorney Vasquez.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk, have we had any requests from the public to speak on any items under closed session?
No, we have not.
Okay. So at this time, we're going to adjourn into closed session, and hopefully we'll be able to return by 7:30 to reopen the City Council meeting. So at this time, I'm going to ask if everybody can log off of Zoom and go to closed session. Exit. Leave. Are we ready to begin? Can you guys hear me? Are we ready to begin? Okay. Becky, are we ready? Becky, if you can hear me, are we live and ready?
Yes, we are ready.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're ready to begin tonight's Gardena City Council meeting for Tuesday, June 23rd, 2020. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Serta,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Here.
Councilmember Tanaka, Councilmember Tanaka,
Here.
thank you. Councilmember Cascanian,
Present.
Councilmember Francis.
Here. Okay. So before we begin the meeting, let me just read this here. In order to minimize the spread of COVID-19 virus, Governor Newsom has issued an executive order that temporarily suspends the requirement of the Brown Act. Please be advised that the council chambers are closed to the public and that some or all of the Gardena City Council members may be attending this meeting telephonically or by Zoom. If you would like to participate in the meeting, you can participate via the following options. The first way is view the meeting live on Spectrum Channel 22 or online at youtube.com/City of Gardena. The second way is participating before the meeting by emailing the Records Management Coordinator at krhee@cityofgardena.org and write public comment in the subject line. Comments will be read into the record up to the time limit of 3 minutes. Third, you can participate during the meeting via Zoom webinar. So to join the meeting via the internet or via phone conference, the direct URL is https://us02web.zooam.us/J/8851708871. The phone number is area code 669-900-9128, and the meeting ID number is 885-2170-8871. If you wish to speak live on a specific agenda item during the meeting, you may use the raise your hand feature during that item that you wish to speak on. For non-agenda items, you will be allowed to speak during all communications. And during a public hearing, you will be allowed to speak when the mayor opens a public hearing. Members of the public wishing to address the City of Gardena thanks you in advance for taking all the precautions to preventing the spread of COVID-19 virus. So we have just returned from closed session. Attorney Vasquez, do we have anything to report from closed session?
No, Madam Mayor, there was no reportable action taken tonight during closed session.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask if the Mayor Pro Tem can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and immediately following that, if Council Member / Chaplain, Councilmember Tanaka, can lead us in the invocation, I'd appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Please all put your right hand over your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
If you pray with me, please. Father, we thank you for another day of meeting. We thank you for the elected officials and hope that all decisions tonight are worthy of your love and honor. We thank you just that you allow us to have such a great city, the great community, always stepping up for a cause, and thank you. And we hope that this meeting is fruitful. And we thank you for all those that have prepared us and put all their talents to use. So, Father, be with us tonight as we do this meeting. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Tanaka for leading us. Appreciate that. Okay, since we have no presentations, proclamations, I'm going to move on. Does any member of the council have any appointments to any commissions, committees, councils, or boards at this time?
I have none.
Okay, if not, we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Madam City Clerk, has anybody from the public requested to speak on any item under the consent calendar?
I apologize. No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that being said, does any member of the council have any items they wish to discuss separately? If not, can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar as is?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, I'm sorry, who said that again?
I moved it.
And who seconded it?
Rodney.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Kaskanian and a second by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Kaskanian.
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Francis.
Yes.
And Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next up is Planning and Environmental Quality Commission action sheet. Just of note, the June 16th, 2020 meeting was canceled. So we're going to move on to oral communications. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody requesting to speak at this time?
Well, first I'd like to say that we received two email communications, which I will read into the record. And I see that we have one hand up. So if I may read into the record the two emails, I will start with the first one.
Okay.
It says, "Hi, Mayor Tasha, my name is Ryan, and I'm a resident of Studio City, California. I demand that Andres Guardado's autopsy be removed from security hold so the family can have the answers they need to cope with the tragic loss of an 18-year-old child. I would hope compassion and empathy would be the driving force, and that the answers provided from your leadership will allow for healing within your community. Thanks, Ryan." Second one we received email form is from Davina Caudillo. "Can we please address the murder of Andres Guardado? I, along with a lot of the community, are feeling distraught over the fact that this young man was shot 7 times in the back. We need justice and answers. The cops need to be accountable for their actions. This young man should not have been murdered. Thank you." And that concludes the correspondence received, and I see we have 2 hands up. And
Madam City Clerk,
Yeah.
before you bring on the 2 live speakers, I just want to make one comment. First one is we just want to give our condolences to the family of Andres
Guardado.
Guardado. And just for clarification, so anybody watching this, just so that they know that that did not happen in the city of Gardena. It happened in the unincorporated part of LA, which has a Gardena mailing address, and that sheriffs handled that, not the city of Gardena. So for anybody who is watching that. Okay, you can go ahead and have.
Thank you. First speaker with hand raised is Ella. Please proceed.
Okay.
Thank you. I think we're waiting for the timer.
She's on mute.
Am I unmuted?
You're good.
Yes.
Am I here?
We can
Yes.
hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay! Okay, I'm a little inept when it comes to technology. So, hi, my name is Ella Allen, and I'm actually a resident of Long Beach, but I have storage units in the city of Gardena. And unfortunately, due to COVID, can you see me? Because I can't see any of you.
We have your audio here.
Okay, good. Okay. So, unfortunately, due to COVID, I lost my job and I'm unable to pay for my storage. And I don't want to lose my business and everything I own. You know, they're trying their best to work with me, but they can only do so much. The city of Los Angeles has passed an ordinance to put a halt on storage evictions. And I was wondering if Gardena and any other surrounding cities will plan on doing the same, because just like a lot of us working people, that is our work, that is our home, that is everything. The last thing we want to do is lose our things in the pandemic, especially while waiting for our unemployment. That's all.
Okay.
Your thoughts?
It was Ella or Bella, because I believe you're the same person I received an email from earlier today. Oral
Yes.
communications are for you to make a comment. Generally, we do not.
Yeah.
We don't respond back, but we are taking this information down. It is on record, and our city manager will receive this, and we will, if your contact information is submitted to the city clerk, we can follow back up with you. Hello?
Yes, I did receive an answer back earlier. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I did hear, okay, great. I was told earlier that unfortunately you guys aren't governed under Los Angeles, so you will not be incorporating, I mean, you can't follow that rule, obviously, by Los Angeles County. So I was just curious if you're going to be incorporating them into yours, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be other people that are going to be in the same predicament.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for giving that information to us. As I mentioned, we normally don't have kind of like a back and forth dialogue, but that information has been noted with our city manager.
Of course.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, do we have one more speaker?
We do. What happened to her? Let's see here. Rudy Martinez.
Okay.
And the timer is on, so he can go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Madam City Clerk. Just a couple things I just wanted to reiterate. I'm so glad you sent out the tweet message in regards to Mr. Floyd. Once again, saddened it took so long to get that out. And once again, with this other event that's in an unincorporated area, but it has the mailing address of Gardena. I'm just literally curious on why are we not giving out messages quicker, especially in this day and age, to get messages out right away saying, hey, you know, our thoughts and prayers is this tragedy. We're going to work with the Compton Sheriff Department as best we can for this incident, but just please note, this is just the mailing address for Gardena. It didn't take place in Gardena. We have Gardena Police Department here that handles those situations. Same thing too, like I said, the major tragedy that sparked this whole demonstration and protest in regards to law enforcement, and it took such a long time. And if it wasn't, I feel like for Mayor Pro Tem Henderson really pushing the issue, the tweet wouldn't have come out. And I know some other citizens have expressed some concern with that. So I'm kind of frustrated with that. I wish we could do a better job of that. Could we get the messages out quicker, help educate some of the staff? Because right now that's all you see in the headlines, Gardena, Gardena, Gardena. So that would be helpful on that. Last but not least, I just want to talk once again about the COVID-19 regulations. I know it's funny because the last speaker was just saying that, hey, we're not going to Los Angeles County. However, we do every single thing Los Angeles County does, which is very frustrating because, once again, we have almost 60,000 people in our city, and I don't know how many COVID cases we have. I'm sure none of you could really spout out how many cases we have and how many deaths due to it. I think 0 but yet we still continue to have the parks and playgrounds closed and must wear a mask? Otherwise, the police are calling on you? Are you kidding me? We need to do a better job, and I'm very frustrated because you guys continue to sit there. You don't listen to Councilman Francis. Councilman Henderson brings up a lot of good ideas, and we continue to do the same thing, same stuff. Please take notice. Take notes of the data. 60,000 folks, limited cases, no deaths. We have a couple expirations already on natural causes. So you're going to still restrict this? This is ridiculous. People are going a little stir crazy because we can't go to the park without having a mask. And if we exercise, it's hard breathing with a mask. Very frustrating. So I yield my time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I believe that's all the speakers. Or are there any more, Madam?
We have another speaker,
Okay,
Casey.
okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Casey, and my husband and I moved to Gardena a couple years ago, but my grandparents and my parents grew up here, and so I've noticed a pretty big increase in fireworks over the last few months, and I know July 4th is coming up, so I do expect a big increase because of that, but I feel like ever since I've kind of been in Gardena, the last few months have been really bad, and there's been a lot of talk about it on the Nextdoor app, and people just aren't really sure what to do about it. We have a pet dog who sometimes we have to give medication to kind of help calm her down. We have a toddler who wakes up a lot. Some of the blasts are just so loud that it will make my heart just start racing, and it'll scare me. So I don't know if there's anything that the city council can do about it, or if there are any tips that you might have for the residents to kind of either deal with the fireworks or help make change. That would be great. And then the other thing I wanted to say was just that I have family in Orange County, and they help babysit my child while we work, and they've always commented on how everybody in the neighborhood here wears masks and is very respectful of the social distancing, and so I just feel like Gardena has done a really good job with the social distancing and dealing with the pandemic. Obviously, we miss going to the park and doing a lot of things we used to, but we totally understand why things are the way they are, and we feel like everybody in our neighborhood is doing their part to kind of help with the pandemic. I have a friend who lost her father to COVID, and it was extremely sad, so we are totally on board with it. I just wanted to let the city council know that we totally applaud all of the restrictions and everything that Gardena is doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I believe that concludes. I don't see any other hands raised. So,
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, next we're going to go on to item number 8B1. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor, serving members of the City Council, Agenda Item 8B1 is a public hearing and is a call for review by Mayor Serta of the Planning Commission action on the approval of site plan review number 2-20 and tentative track map number 1-20 for the construction of 6 new townhome units in the medium density multiple family residential R3 zone for a property located at 1938 West 146th Street. Resolution number 6465 is upholding the decision of the Planning Commission to approve site plan review 2-20 and tentative track map number 1-20. The applicant is Javier Ordonez. On May 19, 2020, the Planning Commission conducted a public hearing at which time the Commission voted 5-0-0 to adopt resolution number PC 4-20, which approved site plan review number 2-20 and tentative track map number 1-20. An agenda staff report providing information on the concerns raised during the May 19, 2020 Planning Commission meeting and changes to the design submitted by the applicant were attached to this item. Staff's presentation to the Commission was also included along with the transcribed meeting minutes. Staff determined that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15303 B and 15332 of the CEQA guidelines. I believe we have a very short presentation tonight, regarding the details of this project. I'm going to be sharing my screen and starting the presentation now. Madam City Clerk or Deputy City Clerk, would you allow me to share screen, please? Okay, I got it now. Thank you. Can everybody see this presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, City Manager, sorry, excuse me for interrupting, but I believe we have a more revised version.
Okay.
Can you hold on just a moment? And we actually can share it.
Okay. Okay. I'll exit from here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we can go ahead and move to the next slide if this is a slide that's the latest version. Okay, it's just a little background. Planning Commission decision on May 19, 2020 voted unanimously to approve the project to construct 6 new residential townhome units. Mayor Serta called for review on June 9, 2020 council meeting, just basically requesting to know more about the project, and here we are. Since then, the applicant submitted a revised project since June 5th, basically modifying the design of the building with some minor changes. Next slide. Just to give an idea on the location of this particular project, this is the vicinity map along the corner of 146th and Gramercy, and it's highlighted in the yellow rectangle. Next slide. This is just a zoning map to show location of the zones of the project. Next slide, please. So the proposal includes basically 6 units with 3 townhome style buildings. Approximate height, as you see here, is about 33 feet. These are 3-story buildings. Approximate living area is 1,763 square feet with a garage with 555 square feet, enough for 2 cars, a laundry room, and a storage room. It's also going to have, each unit is also going to have a covered patio and a private side yard and a private balcony on the second floor. Next slide. At this point, Acting Director Berrigan and Assistant City Attorney Lisa Kranitz are going to be talking more about the development standards for this particular project.
Thank you, City Manager Osorio. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. So the project has 2 components, as the City Manager stated. It's the site plan review and the tentative track map. The slide before you, the slide that's in front of you right now are the development standards in the R3 zone. The staff analysis demonstrated that showed that the project meets or exceeds the development standards. As you can see, just as some, not to go through the whole list, but in terms of density, there are 6 maximum dwelling units that are allowed on the subject site, which is about 14,402 square feet. And what he has proposed is 6 units. And as you go down, you'll see again that what is required and what is proposed, the applicant has met and or exceeded the development standards. Next slide. And here is the site plan, and you have 146 running along the right side of the slide, and the rear of the property on the left side of the slide. You have the front yard, which is a 20-foot setback. You have the driveway running along the bottom part of the slide, and you have the homes. You have the townhomes on across 3 buildings for a total of 6 buildings. I'm sorry, for 6 units. Each townhome has its own 2-car garage. There are also 3 guest parking spots that are provided throughout the project site. Each unit also has ground floor yard areas and second floor patios. And as part of after the call for review, the applicant is requesting some additional patios that will be located over the garage facing the proposed driveway, and we'll get into that in a little bit more detail throughout this presentation. Next slide. This is the front elevation facing 146th Street. The minor change here was that the front townhome, the front door originally faced the east elevation, and that was changed to have a little bit more relationship with the street. So the front door is now facing the 146th Street. If you see on the left side of the elevation, you'll see an arched patio, and that is the added patio for each of the units, and that would be overlooking the proposed driveway. Next slide. And here's the elevation facing, this is facing east or west, and this is the back side of the townhomes. And next slide. And this is the elevations of the garage facing elevations. Next slide. The applicant has chosen a modern take on the Spanish style. There are elements of Spanish tile roof and earth tone colors, and again, different architectural treatments. And in addition to the architectural treatments is some rock material that would be included around the entrances to each of the units. Next slide. The second component of the project is a tentative track map, and the provisions of the State Subdivision Map Act says that if any grounds listed here on the slide can be made, then the tentative track map can be denied. The analysis that's incorporated in the staff report showed that these grounds could not be made, therefore the tentative track map can be approved. Next slide. At the Planning Commission, there were some concerns from members of the public relative to density, impact to street parking, and construction noise. In terms of density, the applicant is proposing the total amount of units that are allowed on this size property in the R3 zone. In terms of parking, each unit comes with its own 2-car garage, and the applicant is required to provide 3 parking spaces or half a parking space per unit, meeting the development standards for parking in the R3 zone. And in terms of construction noise, that is regulated by the municipal code for construction hours and also our noise ordinance. Next slide. And actually, before I go on to environmental considerations, there are also some other requirements that came up during the Planning Commission. If you can go back to the previous slide. In terms of street parking, there was an additional condition of approval that requires the applicant to add into the CCNRs that the garage can only be used for parking, that it has to remain clear for 2 cars in each garage. And therefore, and that's it. And then next slide, please. This project is exempt from CEQA per section 15332 infill development, and also section 15303B small structures. Next slide. As discussed earlier, the applicant did propose some minor changes after the call for review, and that is under your consideration tonight. They include the stone material around the entrances to each of the townhomes, also moving the door to face the street, and the addition to the balconies on each unit that would overlook the proposed driveway. Next slide. And here are some examples that you may be familiar with of the work that Mr. Ordonez has built over the last few years. And these are just examples of the quality of work and also the type of detail that he has built on other projects. And next slide. And with that, staff asks that the council open the public hearing, receive public testimony, and adopt resolution number 6465, upholding the decision of the Planning Commission to approve site plan review 2-20 and tentative track map 1-20. And staff is here for any questions, and also I believe the applicant is also available for any questions you may have of him. Thank you.
Sorry, I had to remember to unmute. Mr. City Manager, do you have anything else to add before I open the public hearing?
No, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so at this time, this is a public hearing. I am going to open it up. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody from the public wishing to speak on this item?
Madam City Clerk, you're muted.
Okay, thank you. We have one speaker, Joseph Hine, and we have a letter that I will read into the record. So, Madam Mayor, would you like to have the speaker speak first?
Actually, let's take the letter first, and then we'll open it up to the speaker.
Okay. Okay. So we have received a letter from Yimby Law, and it's signed by Sonia Tross, Executive Director. And it says, Dear Gardena City Council, Yimby Law submits this letter to inform you that the City Council has an obligation to abide by all relevant state housing laws when evaluating the above captioned proposal, including Housing Accountability Act, California Government Code 65589.5, the Housing Accountability Act, prohibits localities from denying housing development projects that are compliant with the locality zoning ordinance or general plan at the time the application was deemed complete, unless the locality can make findings that the proposed housing development would be a threat to public health and safety. The most relevant section is copied below. J, when a proposed housing development project complies with applicable objective general plan and zoning standards and criteria, including design review standards in effect at the time that the housing development project's application is determined to be complete, excuse me, but the local agency proposes to disapprove the project or approve it upon the condition that the project be developed at a lower density, the local agency shall base its decision regarding the proposed housing development project upon written findings supported by substantial evidence on the record that both the following conditions exist. 1, the housing development project would have a specific adverse impact upon the public health or safety unless the project is disapproved or approved upon the condition that the project be developed at a lower density. As used in this paragraph, a specific adverse impact means a significant, quantifiable, direct, and unavoidable impact based on objective, identified written public health or safety standards, policies, or conditions as they existed on the date the application was deemed complete. 2, there is no feasible method to satisfactorily mitigate or avoid the adverse impact identified pursuant to paragraph 1, other than the disapproval of the housing development project or the approval of the project upon the condition that it be developed at a lower density. 4, for purposes of this section, a proposed housing development project is not inconsistent with the applicable zoning standards and criteria and shall not require a rezoning. If the housing development project is consistent with the objective general plan standards and criteria, but the zoning for the project site is inconsistent with the general plan. If the local agency has complied with paragraph 2, the local agency may require the proposed housing development project to comply with the objective standards and criteria of the zoning, which is consistent with the general plan. However, the standards and criteria shall be applied to facilitate and accommodate development at the density allowed on the site by the general plan and proposed by the proposed housing development project. The applicant proposes the construction of 6 new townhome units in the medium density multiple family R3 zone. The above caption proposal is zoning compliant and general plan compliant. Therefore, your local agency must approve the application or else make findings to the effect that the proposed project would have an adverse impact on public health and safety as described above. YIMBY Law is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation whose mission is to increase the accessibility and affordability of housing in California. And I think I am out of time.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
We have a speaker, I believe.
Yes, we do. Joseph Hine.
Okay.
Hello. How is everyone? Check 1, 2, 3, 4.
You're good. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So I'm a resident. I live 2 doors down from the proposed site. We have some concerns, my neighbors and I, about noise, privacy, and parking. And we categorically do not want this project in our neighborhood. I assume, is this a conversation or is this for me to air grievance?
Basically just a comment. We may be able to answer it if the applicant is available, but go ahead.
Okay, so this NIMBY it's not a corporation, right? It's an actual law, not in my backyard. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar if it's a law or not.
Yeah, that's typically what that stands for. When people say NIMBY, it means not in my backyard, meaning they don't want it,
Right.
and it needs to go elsewhere. But so yeah, so we have a lot of parking issues on this street. We have many single-family dwellings, and we're flanked by apartment buildings already. So oftentimes residents here will have to park around the corner or even on the next block over if we can get parking at all. Also, the apartment buildings that are flanked, they have a view right into our backyards and our houses, and that's kind of like definitely a privacy issue here on 146. So, I mean, that's about all I've got, pretty much. So I guess I'll yield back.
Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk, are there any more speakers on this item here?
Yes, Kate Hong.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, hi, my name is Kate. I'm also a resident at the street, and I'm actually in the house that is directly adjacent to the property. And as Joey has just stated, there is a serious parking issue in our street already. As he said, there are a lot of single home residential areas, and we do have several multi-home complexes and apartments around. And this is a street where you can only park on one side of the street. So you can imagine how bad the parking is right now. And with 6 new additional townhomes, even if they do provide 2 garages for two cars, it doesn't guarantee that it will be used, and it's not a guarantee that each resident for each unit will only have 2 cars, as most residents in California, Los Angeles, have more than 2 houses per household if there are more than 2 people in the house. Also, as a resident of the directly adjacent building, I have mentioned in the previous hearing that there is a serious noise issue where, with the windows open, I can literally hear what they are saying next door. And if there are 6 more units, I can't even imagine the noise that I'll be hearing, and I don't want to compromise my ability to open my window for this. And I also wanted to address that there is a serious privacy issue as the residents, as the building would look down into our house or backyard and any other adjacent buildings. And then furthermore, because it will be the tallest building in the whole area, not just our block, but like the whole area. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of express those. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk, any more speakers on this item?
No, Madam Mayor, we have no more speakers.
Okay. Are there any questions from any of the council members at this time?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this, Henderson.
Okay,
regard-
Henderson first, then Cascanian.
Okay, so a couple questions. I know we received something from, the city attorney in regards to this project to, remind us of what our obligation is, but the other issue is in regards to the demolition. If there happens to be any asbestos or anything in that home, how will we mitigate that at all? Will we test for that during demolition if that was to occur? Can Mr. Bergon respond to that?
Hi, Mayor Pro Tem Henderson, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So depending on the structure when it was built, prior to demo, there would be an asbestos report that would be submitted to the Building and Safety Department, and that would be included in the demo plan for how they demo the building and how they dispose of any material associated with asbestos. And that's a common process for all demolition, especially of older buildings.
So if there is some discovered, then we have to notify everyone how it will be addressed, or how would that work?
The plan would be submitted. It would be reviewed by AQMD, and it would be submitted to the Building and Safety Department and incorporated into the demo plan.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Cascanian?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to Mr. Acting Director Barragan. How are we going to enforce the CCNR since, if they close the garage door, and I don't know, if they're going to park their cars or not. I'm very familiar with the neighborhood over there. As a matter of fact, the same street we're talking about. The parking is an issue over there. And I would like to, kind of enforce and see how we're going to, manage parking. 6 units, 4 cars, plus or minus per unit. That's a 24 vehicle. And if they park, half of that in the garage, 12 cars additional on the street. So I'm just a little concerned about that. How are we going to do it? Maybe 3 cars on the driveway, and then the residents going to be complaining, you blocked my garage, I blocked your garage. Is this going to raise an issue for us, and then we're going to have problem?
Right, Chair. I'm sorry, Councilmember Kaskanian. This would be the only property on this street, or actually in this area that I'm aware of, that would have that language built into the CCNRs. So the HOA would at least have some ability to regulate how the garages are kept freed or clear to allow 2 cars to park in the garage. So to answer your question, it isn't foolproof, but it does allow them a lot more. It does allow them to regulate that, whereas other properties in the neighborhood in the R3 zone currently do not have those, or at least not to my knowledge. So as we move forward with these projects, that will be something that we would be adding to a lot of these other multifamily projects, so that they would have that language in there to enforce that rule. again, in their CCNRs.
I see. And go ahead.
It should also be noted that, again, this project does meet the parking requirement for the R3 zone. As stated in the presentation in that slide, that they are meeting and exceeding the development standards. So therefore, and I'm not sure if Lisa is on the phone or if she's able to get on the phone, or maybe Karma can speak to the legality of the applicant meeting the development standards and what would potentially happen if the project is denied.
That was going to be my next question. Well, what's the worst happens if we deny it?
One more thing, Mr. Vargan, one more quick question. The apartment building on that street, when the trash bins are parked outside and on the other side there is vehicles, it's very difficult to maneuver on that street. I am very familiar with the neighborhood exactly, and I know what our residents are talking about the parking issue. So, there is few buildings that when the trash bins they come out, it's blocked on one side of the street. That it's anyway one side you can park over there, and the other side park cars. Here we go.
Councilmember Cascanian, members of the council, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good, we finally got the technical problem solved. Yes, Councilmember Henderson is right. We did send a memo to the council earlier. In large part, the YIMBY law letter parallels what we said. I think you've heard both Mr. Wallen and myself say this for development projects over the past number of years. State law, the Housing Accountability Act, requires that when a project meets the objective development standards, the zoning, and the general plan, the council's hands are tied and you have no choice but to approve the project. In this case, the project meets all of the development standards. This is an area that's zoned for R3 multiple family development. That means all of the lots, those that are single family, have the same potential to eventually build up. This area was designated for this type of development in the city's general plan and on their zoning.
Okay.
And as to how to enforce the parking, additionally, because it's a condition of approval, if the HOA isn't doing their job, this is something code enforcement could also go after. If we found that garages were being used as storage instead of for actual vehicular parking, that would be a violation.
Okay, Miss Assistant City Manager, Attorney, I understand, our hands are tied, we can't do anything about it. But as far as the parking, can you imagine if any other lots, if they start developing, we're going to have an issue. And I do understand the builder that they're going to maximize their profit, or, they're going to push it as much as they can so they can put more units in there. But we have to, kind of understand that, everybody these days drive cars. Everybody has cars. Each household minimum, if they are family of 4, they all have cars. So we got to do something about this parking issue. It concerns me very much, the parking issues, even on residential or commercial, either way. We have, the city is getting more condensed, and, we got to do something about this. So that's my concern is.
Okay. Any more questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
So essentially, because of the NIMBY law, there's nothing we can do but approve the project. Is there anything that we can request? Because one of the residents mentioned privacy issue, that because of the balcony, the neighbors could look directly into their backyard. Is there anything, can we give them any kind of relief on that, or we have to approve it as is? Because where we are in the process.
Councilmember Francis, if the applicant was willing to work with the city, something could be done about it. But I believe the person who complained about privacy was several lots down, and he was complaining about existing apartment buildings being able to look into his yard.
I thought Mrs.
I don't know that it was specific to this development.
I thought the Miss Hung, I can't, is it H? Her name started with H. I can't remember. I should have wrote it down, but I think she complained about. I know one did, but complained about the apartments. But her name.
Miss Hong is the next door neighbor who complained, was concerned about the noise, especially, and parking.
And privacy of the parking. I know that there's probably not much can be done. But about the privacy issues or anything we can do to, I mean, since we can't deny, is there anything that we could do to encourage good neighbors or anything?
Is the applicant on the line? Right?
Yes. Mr. Ordonez is on the line. We are unmuting him now.
Thank you.
Mr. Ordonez, I don't know if you heard the question, but there was concern about the height and privacy. Is that something that you're open to maybe modifying?
First, let me introduce myself. My name is Javier Ordóñez. I'm a local builder. And here is Maria Barragan. She will help me because I speak a little English, and I'm sorry for that.
It's okay.
Quieren saber si usted estaría abierto a quizá hacer algún cambio para darles más privacidad a los vecinos. En los balcones.
Los balcones están del lado del driveway.
The balconies, he's explaining the balconies on the side of where the driveway is.
Y ya yo ya llevo 5 a 6 meses desde que empezó este proceso.
¿Qué tan ancho está el driveway?
26 pies.
And as you know, the driveway is 26 feet. So it's 26 feet before the next neighbor. And he has waited already long enough to get his project approved. He's going into 6 months.
Okay.
He is, as you can see, his project, he's already modified it a couple of times to facilitate more parking. He added 3 guest parkings when originally it was just a 2-car garage. So he's working with you on, making it work, compromising, he's aware of your concerns. However, there's only so much he can do. As far as privacy, he doesn't know what else he can do if he's already building the balconies on the driveway side, which is allowing 26 feet from the neighbor. ¿Alguna otra cosa que quiera agregar?
No, estamos con eso. Eso contesta la pregunta.
He has nothing else to add.
Okay, if you can just stay on the line for a couple of moments. Are there any more questions or comments? Councilmember Tanaka.
Okay, so he answered my question about the balconies on the driveways, and apparently 26 feet, you probably couldn't look in the driveway on the neighbor. But on the backside, I think what Ms. Hong is asking is that if you look at the windows from the rooms on that side, can they see in her backyard? I guess maybe that's her issue. But is there something that says that we can't make, instead of a 6-foot wall, increase that to 8? that may help the privacy issue a little bit?
¿Es para contestar?
No,
I think that might be a question for Ray.
For Ray.
Let me ask the question to Ray.
Preguntando si la barda se puede hacer de 8 pies en vez de 6 pies.
Pero es que no
Sorry.
vivienda,
Yes, Ray, go ahead. Is
Yes.
that a,
es garage.
If it's something that the council would, it pleases the council, that can be added as a
Y nada
condition of
más.
approval.
No hay vivienda.
I may have this may answer your question. If you recall the design,
Yep.
on the first floor,
Right.
there is no living space. It's only the garage, the laundry room,
And
Okay.
storage.
and the storage area.
So I think that's where she's saying that the second level may kind of peek over her backyard or her side of her house. So maybe a 2-foot difference in that wall that separates two houses may help. It's just an option.
I think, is that something that Mr. Ordonez would be open to, going from a 6-foot to an 8-foot wall?
If it's allowable.
Si se lo permiten, construiría 8 pies en vez de 6 pies.
Estoy de acuerdo.
He's okay with that.
Okay, thank you.
That would, I think it would help not only for his project, because it would increase privacy for his project, but also the privacy of the neighbors, and it would help both ways. I think, no one can look over the other way.
So my only other question is, this entire project meets every standard and every requirement regarding building on this property. And the city at the time when it was applied for found there was nothing that they found that was objectionable. Am I correct?
Councilmember Tanker, you are correct.
That's correct.
When the project was first submitted, there were, he worked with the staff to increase, to modify the project to meet the standards.
Right. And it sounds like he's bending over backwards to do that.
Correct.
He's,
Go ahead, Councilwoman.
I was just saying, with his willingness to, add the 2 extra feet on the fence is greatness.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I just had a couple of quick questions. Initially, I wanted to pull the project just for review because I wanted to have an idea of what this is going to look like. And I'm very pleased with the renderings that I'm looking at here. I love the fact that there was stone put in here to give it some, architectural design here. I love the idea of going with very neutral earth tone type of colors. Looking at the roof. So I want to first off just thank the applicant for the project in itself. Looks really nice. I also like to thank the staff for the fact that I had the opportunity to see what the existing home looks like, because unfortunately I didn't get a chance to drive by there. But the couple of questions that I do have as it relates to the guest parking in the CCRs, will it make sure that they're governing the fact that no resident will be able to park a third car in that guest parking, or if there is somebody who wants to store a car in that third parking, because we run across some issues like that before in other projects similar to this, and the HOA says, hey, our hands are tied, and then our code enforcement really couldn't do anything because it was going on property. So I just want to make sure that with those 3 parking spots, it's covered in the CCNRs.
Mayor Serta, we have required that of other projects, and so we will add a condition of approval that will include that language in addition to the garage language as well.
Okay, great. Let me see. There was something else. Let's see. 3 guest parking, CCNRs, and we talked about the side already. And I guess the only other thing I just want to bring up is, so to those who, the couple of the speakers that we had, the one great thing about projects like this here is that we can put more requirements on the way parking is. For instance, making sure that those the owners, their garage does have enough room for 2 cars, because I think it was mentioned a little earlier, the rest of the properties there, the single family units or the multifamily units, we can't put those stipulations on there. So it does help some as it relates to the parking, in the area. Now, I don't know if I saw, and I thought I read through this pretty thoroughly, that I don't know if it mentioned that there was only parking on one side of the street. So I wasn't aware of that. I'm sorry?
One side.
Yeah, I didn't know that. And thank you, whoever it was who brought that up, because that is important to note on here. And the other thing is to the couple of speakers who did inquire in about the noise as well as the parking, because we're a small city, I'd like to always, remind everybody that you have a council that is available to you. And if these are concerns where the noise is louder than you think it should be, you can always let the city know, and we will make sure that we stay in contact, with the owner as well as their contractor who is building this. And I believe they even provided contact information here, who they're to call in the event of a problem like that. But, we will have an eye on this as well moving forward. But again, I just like to thank the applicant. This is a beautiful project. I know a lot of times we have some concerns when we go from a single family house to multi-units. My concern always is how it's going to pull on the infrastructure, because initially, when these streets were designed, even though it's a deep lot and multifamily units are there, what's existing right now is a single family house, and it is going to be a bit of a change there. But overall, I think it's a great project, and I'm definitely in support of it. And once again, I'd just like to thank the applicant for putting together a great project, showing us some examples of some of his previous projects, as well as our staff for compiling all this information together. So are there any more questions or comments?
I have one last question.
Go ahead.
Councilman Cascanian brought up about trash because the receptacles hit the curbs. Are these going to be individual receptacles, or is it going to be a dumpster that is communal for all 6 units?
Councilman Tanaka, they're individual for each unit. Previously, the bins were located in each of the yards.
Right.
And based on some concerns that came up at Planning Commission, they're required to be placed in the garage. But they will be. I'm not sure if the waste resources will go onto the property, or whether or not they'll be rolled out into the street.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any more questions or concerns? If not, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 6465. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by myself and a second by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor
Unmute.
Serta,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we're going to move on to item number 8C1. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 8C1A is the resolution number 6459 adopting the City of Gardenia's 2-year budget for fiscal years 2020, 2021, and 2021 to 2022. We do have a presentation tonight. We do apologize for a rather lengthy one. So if you would bear with me, I'll try to make this as quick as possible. Is everybody able to see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. So a proposed budget was presented to City Council and the public at the May 26, 2020 City Council meeting. Budget has been available for review and comment on the city's website since that time. The proposed budget is based on a conservative revenue and expenditures in both fiscal years and includes deep cuts necessitated by drastic reduction in revenue due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The copies of the adopted budget will be available and has been available for review at the city's website, at cityofgardena.org, and in the city clerk's office. So we're very familiar with this mission and visions page here, and just to quickly go over Our mission is our commitment to always maintaining an efficient and effective government, which ensures the highest quality of life, a safe and attractive environment, a sound economic future for our community. Our vision has always been that Gardena is one of the most desired communities in which to live, do business, work, and play in the South Bay. 2016, we developed a strategic plan in which we incorporated the organizational values and community values. And these are fiscal accountability and sustainability, workforce excellence, and community involvement. And our community values are to have a safe community environment, sustainable economic development, and attractive and livable neighborhoods. So we're here tonight because COVID-19 has had the most profound impact to our budget. So it's important to give an update to our city council, first of all, and our viewers as to where our infection numbers are currently headed. So by the numbers, this is as of yesterday. Actually, I apologize. I just updated this as of today. Overall, in the U.S., there are 2.3 million confirmed cases, and 120,000 people have died nationwide. In LA County alone, over 85,000 confirmed cases and over 3,100 deaths. And in Gardena, and I know somebody had come on earlier and commented that Gardena has minimal cases and there was no deaths. That is just simply false. These are actual numbers as of today. We've had 433 cases and 29 deaths. LA County and the city is entering in the stage 3 of the 5-stage roadmap to recovery. And to answer the question, why do you always follow the LA County as far as COVID-19 and what we do and everything that we do? It's because the city, any city in the state of California, must have its own health officer. Otherwise, the city must belong to the county. Since we don't have the expertise, we don't have a doctor, we don't have scientists to determine what's best for the city and our residents, we follow the county. They have the resources to determine how to move forward and fight this pandemic. And lastly, Governor Newsom just ordered masks for the entire state, not just LA County. So we're not just following LA County anymore; we're following the state order. For more information, you can go to our website. We have a site dedicated to COVID-19. So let me just go over and talk about our general fund reserve, where it's been and where it's headed. We talked about this last meeting, and this graph just gives you a historical general fund reserve dating back in June 2010 when we had a modest $8.6 million reserve, general fund reserve. Through the years, we've systematically increased our reserve at the peak at June 2018. 2018, we had about $23.9 million in reserves. In June 2019, as you can recall, we did a fresh start prepayment with our CalPERS. We used about $6 million of our reserve to get a net gain of approximately $10 million. So, we did a great thing there and did something that not a lot of cities can do. And that is to invest in the future of the city and make sure that we are financially stable and viable and addressing our ongoing unfunded liability with our pensions. On May 26th, we presented our proposed 2-year budget, and that's where you see here. 2019 has been extremely difficult for the city as a whole. We are at that time we were projecting about a $9.8 million deficit ending 2019-2020, and then going forward and looking to the next couple of years, it was a very, very dismal projection. Imagine having a $7.5 million deficit in the next year and about a $5.7 million deficit the following year. We just talked about the reserves. We only have $16 million in the bank. Simple math, will tell you in 2020, 2021, if you don't do anything at all to mitigate the effects of this pandemic in our budget, you simply will run out of money. What we did is we went back and we worked with our labor groups, we worked with our city staff and developed a plan to make sure that we are going to be viable and survive, this pandemic. So what we did was develop a plan. As you know, 2019, 2020, it's pretty much a done year. There's not much you can do. No amount of cuts to preserve the 2009. There's not enough time to really make an effect on it. So our projection, a real projection now, is that 2019, 2020, we're going to be ending up with an $8 million deficit. That's a direct hit to our general fund reserve, leaving us with only $8 million. But on the next couple of years, we have made a significant improvement as to the deficits. In 2020, 2021, our projections, after we have instituted our corrective and mitigating measures, we think we'll be at a deficit of 1.8 million. In 21-22, we think we'll be at a deficit of $300,000. And I'll talk a little bit about the measures that we took in the following slides. So what do we do? How did we basically reduce that deficit by over 80-90%? First of all, the revised budget for 2021, 2022, there was some revenue adjustments, and that's basically because of two things. Card Club revenues are going to come in a little bit better, simply because the Hustler Casino has opened its doors as of June 2020, as opposed to the initial projection that they might open up in September this year. The other thing is that there are no limitations as to the number of people that can go into the casinos. Initially, we thought, and the casinos thought that the county will limit that to about 50%. They've lifted that. There's no limit to the number of people that can play. So our numbers have slightly changed. And the other contributing factor in the revenue side is that property tax. Initially, it was believed that property tax payers, property owners, would defer the payments of their property taxes. We're just finding out now that that's not necessarily true. We have a unique group of homeowners here in Gardena that they really do take pride in ownership, and they do pay their property tax. So for the most part, property taxes coming in, it's not as bad as it was initially projected. And on the other side of the equation would be the expenditures. We've instituted a number of different cuts, including furloughs, layoffs, and we'll talk about a little bit of that in the next slide. But as you can see, in 2020, 2021, we've reduced expenditures by $3.5 million. In 2021, 2022, we've managed to reduce that by $4 million. So what is the makeup of the expenditure reduction? Hiring freezes and promotions, that amounts about $4 million. COLA freezes $230,000 and $300,000 in the following year. We did have some marginal reduction in materials and operations with about $300,000. And then one of the bigger ones would be the freezing of the cash outs and step increases. That amounts to about $1 million per year. Furloughs at about age 62. And then your layoffs. Unfortunately, we did lose a number of employees due to lack of funds and lack of work. and that amounts to about $2.2 million per year. So here's a slide that compares our initial projection without the mitigating measures versus after the post-mitigation. As you can see, there's a slight deviation from the 2019-2020 projection as far as year-end, $9.8 million versus about $8 million, and then the biggest ones, the biggest deviations are on the next couple of years. 1.8 million in the red versus 7.5, and then on the following year, you're only down $300,000 as opposed to $5.7 million. This is another look at our general fund reserves. Going back to 2013, we had $10.3 million. As you see, and as I noted on the previous slides, we slowly started building up our reserves at the height of $23.9 million. We did a fresh start in 2019 that dropped that to $16.5 million, 27%. And then post-COVID, you're down to $8.6 million. And the most important thing to take away here is the next couple of years, where 2021 and 2022, we effectively stopped the bleeding, if you will, and the most important thing you can take away from this is that you really got to make this a little bit more manageable. When you have deficits about $7 million, $8 million, those are not manageable deficits. If you get down to about 1 million, 2 million, and then under $1 million, and you really have a shot now at further reducing that deficit. So these are some of the issues that we are bringing before you. We do have a cash flow issue. Again, general fund reserve will shrink by $10 million in the next 2 fiscal years to just about 11% of the budget. Some of the major sources of revenues, again, property tax, BLF, sales tax, these are all contributing to the deficits that you're going to be seeing for the next couple of years. We are instituting some security measures, if you will, to make sure that we have adequate cash just in case there's another unexpected event that might happen, in the form of earthquake or other natural disasters. We have to have enough money, and $8 million in the bank is probably not enough. So we are looking into some short-term financing programs like a line of credit or a TRAN, which is a tax and revenue anticipation notes. Those come with some fees, but as you know, money is very cheap to borrow right now. A lot of people are looking into short-term financing for security reasons, simply because if and when another event takes place, that's not the time to be looking for cash. That's not the time to be securing funding. Now is the time to do that while you still have the leverage to do that. So we're going to be looking forward to that and bringing that before the City Council in the near future. So how do you sustain return to fiscal sustainability? We've got to really look into structural deficits for the next couple of years. We have to look at our unfunded pension liabilities. These are some of the things that we can really make a difference. Doing certain restructuring and refinancing, those things bring back cash flow to the city. So we are exploring other options in order to address, the deficits that you see here for the next couple of years. But again, the object that we really wanted to accomplish is to get the deficit into a manageable level, which, as I said, 1.8 million the next year and then 300,000 in the following year. It's very manageable, as opposed to big $8 million deficits, which is pretty much unmanageable at that point. Some other challenges that we see in the future, Obviously, the deficit is still there. We're continuing to work on different ways, as I mentioned. We're not going to stop until the deficit is eliminated, because you simply can't have deficits going forward, because at some point of time, you will run out of money. And so that has to be addressed. But again, staff is continually working on that. Again, cash flow shortages, we haven't really talked about the second wave, if a second wave of COVID-19 is coming, but we want to make sure that we're prepared just in case another second wave is here, and then another round of closures. So we want to make sure we don't run out of cash. The other big thing that really worries me and keeps me up late is the discount rate that CalPERS charges us. As we've talked about this in the past. CalPERS has in the past reduced their discount rate. Again, the discount rate on CalPERS is the effective rate of return. CalPERS is thinking that in the long term, we're talking about 15, 20, 30 years, they're thinking that our assets in CalPERS will earn of about 7% or greater. So that's their goal when they say this, the discount rate is at 7%. Now, they can come to a conclusion and decide that, hey, 7% is not really realistic. Let's go down to 6.5%. Let's go down to 6%. So how does that look like? How will that look like as far as our change in our unfunded liability payments? And there's a table on the bottom that shows, your current discount rate at 7%. Our unfunded accrued liability is about $111 million. If CalPERS decides to make a change to 6.5%, that would be an equivalent change of about $24 million in our UAL. So what does that mean as far as an annual payment? That's an additional $2.7 million payment that you have not budgeted for. Obviously, if you have like a $1.8 million deficit, you add in 2.7, so you're back up to $4 million. Furthermore, if they do decide to lower that to 6%, how does that look like? And it is probably highly unlikely that they would do that, because it would essentially bankrupt a lot of cities. But we looked at that too as far as the possibility. What does that look like if you lower the discount rate to 6%? The change in the ULL adds about another $50 million, and that's an additional $5 million on top of what your current deficit right now. So this is a real challenge. It's a possibility that the discount rate might change. We just have to be prepared. We really got to get the deficit at zero and get us back to a surplus. So any change like this, we can probably weather the storm if it's not too severe. So COVID-19, as I said, had some tremendous impact on our revenues, particularly sales tax. When we passed Measure G, we thought that Measure G would bring in about $7 million, but COVID-19 impacted that. Now the new assumption now is about 30% less than the initial projection. Bradley Burns, which is our normal 1% tax, is probably going to bring in 15% less than fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. Card Club revenues. This has been hit really hard by the pandemic. 42% decrease from the 1920 budget. And this is assuming, and it has, Hustler Casino has reopened on June 19th at 50% capacity, and Lucky Lady to reopen October at 50% capacity. Like I said, they are now limiting the capacity, so there's a little bit of a good news on the Card Club side. Utility users tax, this particular tax has been decreasing more and more every year, and that's basically due to price competition. You got your bundling. Not a lot of people are using landlines anymore. They're using your cell phones. They've got unlimited text, unlimited phone calls. So all that plays part on the decline in the utility users tax. Business license, it's very, it's easy to explain. a lot of businesses are not operating right now. There's some businesses in our city that are, essentially close the doors. Of course, business licenses would decrease as well. And these transfers in that we have here, less the gas tax, for instance, you've seen the price of the pump plummet, and then less people are traveling because of the lockdown. That has a significant impact on our gas tax money, and also SB1, which is our projects, the CIP projects. To your right, you'll see that all of our major sales, major sources of revenues are posting red numbers, with the exception of obviously Measure G. Again, we're very fortunate that we passed Measure G in the ballot last March. Had we not, again, that's another $5 million that you would add to the deficit if you don't have Measure G. This is just reiteration. Then the following year would be a reiteration of 2021, but in a little bit better note. As you can see, your sources of revenues are not posting reds. That's simply because some businesses are assuming that a lot of businesses are already in their reopening stages. They've come back and things are starting to settle down. So 2021 to 2022 looks a little bit better than 2020, 2021. I'm going to breeze through this. This is the same things that we've seen in the past. General fund revenues at $56.4 million. Again, sales tax is comprised of 15 million, and then card club at 4.9. Again, if you look at the card club revenue 2 years ago, that would have been like $9 million. Now it's down to 4.9. Property tax is pretty flat, and then the rest are just your usual other revenue sources, UUTs and VLFs. This is the following year. Got a slightly better projections for revenues. This is just shows the listing of our sources of revenues. Another way of looking at it, again, compared to 2019, 2020, you're looking at the major decline in revenues. You can see that in the red. This is just a look at our general fund expenditures for the next couple of years. You can see the distribution. We know that the police and public safety has a lion's share of our budgets, followed by non-departmental. This is your fire department. This is your regional communications, and then the rest are spread out towards the other departments. This is just the following year, pretty similar with minor changes. This is a listing of our different departments and how we budgeted them. As you can see, we've reduced the budgets significantly. G-Trans, very, very similar to how the city is operating right now. They are deficit spending. The difference is that G-Trans has and will be receiving a reimbursement basis of about $6 million from the feds under the CARES Act. The city will not be getting that anytime soon. The transportation side, fortunately, will be receiving that CARES Act. It's not here yet, but there's, we have every reason to believe that it's coming. G-Trans is balanced simply because of the CARES Act. This is just the following year. This is a good look at what I'm talking about for 2021, 2020, 2021. As you can see in the green, there's a $2 million add there, and that's because of the CARES Act. The following year, you're using $2.5 million from the CARES Act, but they're having to use some of their reserves already with about 2.4 million. This is just a look of the enterprise fund balance going forward from 2021 for the next 5 years. This is with the CARES Act and with the mitigating measures that we're implementing, like layoffs and furloughs. As you can see, if there's nothing changes again, 2025, they're going to be running out of money. Very similar to the city, G-Trans has some adjustments, primarily due to the CARES Act. On the revenue side, on the expenditure sides, these reductions are due to furloughs and layoffs. In 21-22, as I said, they're going to be using some of their reserve fund balance. This is just another look at how G-Trans apply their corrective measures, their mitigating measures. You've got reductions in materials and operations. Again, very much like the city runs very lean, so there really isn't much to cut on materials and operations. Furloughs, we're looking at about 183,000 a year, and then layoffs is about 1.4 million. And the rest would be our, just a quick look at our all funds. This includes general fund, G-Trans, internal service funds, our debt service. We've got about $157 million of revenues and expenditures at 167. This is the following year. This is our capital improvement program, the CIP. These are, Prop C, Measure R, Measure M. These are, programmed throughout the year. So these are non-general fund programs. And that concludes the presentation portion. Again, what's required here is to conduct a public hearing and adopt the budget resolution number 6459.
Okay, Mr. City Manager, thank you very much for that detailed presentation. I had the pleasure of seeing a lot of that myself and Councilmember Cascadian at our Finance Committee meeting last week. So thank you again for that. Madam City Clerk, do we have anybody from the public hearing is now open. Do we have anybody from the public who wishes to speak on this item?
Yes, I see Rudy Martinez has his hand up.
Okay. Mr. Martinez, you can go ahead now.
Thank you so much. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Wonderful. Awesome. Hey, just a couple notes. In Los Angeles County, on average, 172 people die a day. And we do our remembrance too, which is very great. I'm so glad we do that, but we average almost 2 a month. That comes to 24. So if that's what we're going off our numbers with the COVID cases and the deaths, kind of the similar numbers. So I just want to throw that out there. I understand we have a medical doctor, so we just follow the county. Understandable. That makes more sense. I wish I would have said from the get-go. Same thing too with that last hearing. Are we using our time wise enough? We just kind of wasted our time. That guy did everything he had to do. We wasted everybody's time because now his project's approved.
Mr. Martinez, if you could only speak directly to this item here on the budget. I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
Limited to that. Thank you.
You got it. Property taxes report out. We do pay. The casino is paying, so we are definitely doing our part as citizens. I'm very happy for that. I just had some questions too. This says 10% other funds that go out. I was unclear on what that is getting paid. But 49% for the police department. Once again, that's always been kind of one of my issues. Half our tax dollars are going right to the police department. Is that ever going to be addressed? Is that ever going to change, especially too with this unfunded liability just going up higher and higher and higher and higher? We've had 3 chiefs in the last 4 years, I want to say. So when they retire, a lot of times they get paid out at 80 or 90% of their salary or some sort like that. So that's something to really think about. I just wanted to also just say, if you look at page 28 and 29, it looks like we have we have about $10 million we're going to be, and it's only going to get worse down the road, about 5 years or so, if I read that correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm assuming we're going to have more taxes like Measure G. Is that going to be a new thing every year? Measure GG, and then the next year it's going to be Measure Triple G, and the next one's going to be Measure G to the 4th power. I just got to be prepared, so when I tell my kids, hey, I may not be able to leave the house because I don't know if I can live here anymore because we keep getting taxed because we can't manage our money well enough. So I'm just curious with that, because maybe then we need to cut everybody for all Los Angeles County, have them make all the calls since they do that anyway, and we'll just pay the city of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles and the police department. That's where you have two funds going. So just want to throw that out there. This budget is a little ridiculous. I don't think it's been thought through. Very upset with that. So I yield my time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Madam City Clerk, do we have any other speakers?
No, Madam Mayor, we do not.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to the council at this time. Are there any questions or concerns?
Madam Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I want to thank the Finance Committee for kind of grinding this one out a little bit. I had some concerns, but I think we're getting there. But Mr. City Manager, so technically our reserves could cover the gaps for a little bit, and I get that. So technically we're okay. And the short-term financing, that potentially will be coming in. Passing a deficit budget, what does that do to the credit rating? I'm just curious.
Mayor Pro Tem, I hardly doubt there's going to be any impacts on our credit rating. But if one would compare our budget to other cities out there, I would venture to say that we are in better off shape than most cities. So rating agencies are making, just like with anything else, making exceptions to due to the current situation. So I would be extremely surprised if they started dinging cities because of the pandemic.
Okay.
So this is not because of a systemic problem that we have. It's because of it's because of a virus.
Right.
The virus has basically shut us down.
All right, so technically now the other one is going to CalPERS and the unfunded liability. If CalPERS decides to offer some sort of package where we could refi or something like that, there's only 482 cities in the state of California. Would that be a first come, first serve, or would that be something potentially available to everybody to give us some more liquid if we decide to do something like that moving forward?
I've not heard of any opportunities to refining with CalPERS. They are very silent on something like that. I doubt that they'd be doing that. However, there are measures out there that we can take in order to shrink that unfunded liability, reduce the reduce the interest that we're paying. Instead of the 7%, you can probably get into about 4 or under 4%, and that you're getting into something that we're really looking into, and that's in the realm of possibly refinancing the unfunded liability to a lower interest-bearing note, if you will. Again, this is we're talking about a lot of money to be saved, but there is a process, and we're working through that.
Right. And in regards to the short-term financing option, although money is cheap right now, is there, let's say we do get that, we do exercise that, and we keep that in our coffers for now, what would be our exposure with that sitting there? And then if we happen to not use it because in, let's say, 12, 18 months, everything's back going, what's the penalty if we return that? Or do we know that?
There is no penalty to return it. Where the fees come in would be on your execution, your processing fees. That typically runs in about $10,000, and then the interest rate that they would be charging us. If you don't use let's say you're borrowing $10 million, you don't use it, then they would just charge you a nominal amount for reserving that amount for you, for the city, so that you have it with you just in case you need to use it. And that interest is approximately about 50 basis points. So that's 0.50 basis points. If you do end up using that amount or any part of that amount, so the amount that you use you'll probably be paying about 2% on average. And the reason why we do that, and let me tell you, a lot of cities are doing that right now. Almost all cities that I know are doing right now, is because you never know what's going to happen next, right? You never know what's natural disaster or a new shutdown that's going to happen. Like I said, when you get to that point, that's not the time to be looking for funds to be paying for our liabilities. It's now's the time to be doing that. the idea is, that's basically how you look at it, as insurance money. When you take insurance out, you don't want to use it. You don't want to use it until you have to. In tonight's agenda, we have our insurance for the risk pool. We're bringing it forward. So, we hope not to use it, but if we do, we want to know that it's there and we want to be ready.
Okay, last question, Madam Mayor. So in regards to what we've cut now, unfortunately, with the layoffs that we've done, and now our operations, our service levels are around 80%. We can probably maintain this 80% for at least another 12 or maybe 12, 18 months, maybe. But if we have to do another cut, then what will we be looking at?
So that's really the part that we wanted to tread lightly, and we wanted to make sure that we don't overcut. We wanted to make sure that the cuts that we're doing are appropriate. If you do another round of cuts, it's not proportional to your reduction, right? So if you go from 20% to 30%, that's not proportional to the service level cut. It's probably be comparable to about 50% service level. So you're going from 80% to 50%.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any more questions or comments?
Yes, I have a question. Is there any monies from either the federal or the state level to help cities? Because we're, as you said, we're probably doing a little bit better than most, but we're still having some difficulty here. So is there any CARES or any type of federal money or state money that we can look forward to? Or
so, Councilmember Francis, the position that the U.S. Senate has taken on the matter is that they would like to see struggling cities, how they balance their budget is they'd rather see the cities go through bankruptcy, is what they're saying. The House of Representatives had another round of CARES Act funding available, and as you know, the Senate has not passed it. I don't know the status of that, but when we built this budget, the cuts and all of the things that we're talking about here, we're not counting on any help coming anytime soon, because the round of CARES money that was available was really designed for the bigger cities, right? The cities that have 500,000 population or more. Those cities got the bulk of it. They've got direct allocation where they can use the money right away. And then the rest of the cities that are under 500,000, the process is that you have to go through your state and you have to go through your county in order to get some funding. To this date, we have not heard of anything, any type of application out there to get some money, and simply because I think the state has posted that and stated that they have a $53.5 billion deficit. So I would think that they would probably use that before filtering it down to some of the smaller cities like us.
is there anything on the revenue generated side that we can do, or anything else we can?
Well, Council Member, the problem is, people are willing to spend. People are willing to spend. They have been willing to spend for the last 3 months. The problem is that the economic engine has stalled. When you stop an economy like what we did, there is no, even if the demand is there, supply can't be given out. So even if you had 10 restaurants lined up to open up today, they simply can't because there's no money to start it off. Not a lot of demand to open up businesses. A lot of the businesses have shut down. So when the economic engine shuts down like that, it's very, very difficult to get it started because it takes a lot of time to. It's not like turning on a switch. Hey, let's open up restaurants. It takes time. You've got some limiting factors like social distancing, capacity, and whatnot. So even if one of our restaurants open up, you're probably lucky if you get about 50% of revenues from them.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments? No? Okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
may I say, there is someone else's hand who's already spoken, so I would just like to announce that they can only speak once, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Where was it? Questions or comments? before I close the hearing? No? Okay, once again, I'd like to thank the city manager as well as the entire finance staff for putting this budget together. I know it was not easy because there's so many things going on right now, like I said, with COVID and just financial difficulties. But nevertheless, thank you again for working on this.
Madam Mayor, can I say something else before we close this? I just want to thank our city staff for, again, Admin Services Department, Ray Beeman, our CFO, for and Coy for putting together this budget presentation. And I also want to thank the rest of our city staff, particularly GMEA. As you can see later on, their side letter is up for your consideration. Really hats off to them for helping out the city. If it weren't for them, you wouldn't be seeing the reduction in your deficits as you see it tonight. Also want to thank the POA for coming forward and providing us with some concessions. Even though they have a close contract, they didn't have to. They were one of the first ones to really reach out to me and say, hey, this is what we can do. And my department heads and managers, confidentials, unrepresented, they're out here helping us every day. They've been here working with this whole pandemic, and they're part of the reduction in cuts too. And our supervisors and managers at GMEO, I know we're still working through their contract, and hopefully we'll get some agreement to that. But thank you to all of our staff for really helping us getting to this point. Like I said, a more manageable place to be rather than you're seeing like an $8 million deficit year after year.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. You are absolutely right. And I'm going to speak for this entire council. We all appreciate how everybody has come together like this, because that is major for, our employee unions to come forward, for our department heads to, take this cut. That really shows your commitment to the city of Gardena. And I appreciate it. I know the rest of the council appreciate it, because as we keep saying all along, we're all in this together. So you guys aren't just about talk, but you actually moved forward and did it. So we all thank you for that. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. And I need a motion. We're going to actually take up resolution number 6459 as well as 6460.
Madam Mayor, because we've only discussed 6459, we will actually only be taking 6459. The city manager has not introduced 6459.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hello. I wrote this down wrong. Okay, I'm sorry. Resolution number 6459. Can I get a motion to approve the 2-year budget for fiscal year 2020 through 2021 and 2021 through 2022?
So moved.
Who said that? I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, Tanaka. And who seconds? Kaskinen. Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Councilmember Kaskinen. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Tanaka.
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Francis.
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, now we're going to move on to item number 8C1B, which is resolution number 6460.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 8C1B is resolution number 6460, establishing the appropriations limit for fiscal year 2020 through 2021, also known as the GAN limit. In 1979, Proposition 4, known as the GAN Initiative, was approved by voters. As a result, Article 13B of the State Statute Government Code Section 7900-10 was enacted and requires that each year thereafter, the governing body of each local jurisdiction shall, by resolution, establish its appropriation limit for the following year. Proposition 111, approved by voters in 1990, amended Article 13B further, and council action is necessary to implement amendments effective for fiscal year 2020-2021. The amendments of Prop 111 specify that the annual adjustment factor in calculating the appropriations limit will be increased by the change in population growth for the city or county, whichever is the higher population growth rate, the change in California per capita personal income, or the growth in non-residential assessed valuation due to the new construction within the city. Pursuant to Prop 111 amendments and upon council approval, staff has calculated the fiscal year 2020-2021 appropriations limit using the city's population change and the percentage change in per capita personal income in California. Appropriations limit for fiscal year 2020-2021 is $118,470,593, with appropriations of $58,261,955 subject to the limit, leaving a remaining appropriations capacity of $60,208,638. The financial impact is appropriation limit of $118,470,593. Funding source is all revenue sources. Remaining appropriations capacity is $60,208,638. What's required is conduct public hearing and adopt resolution number 6460.
Okay, thank you. So, Madam City Clerk, do we have any speakers on this item?
No, we do not.
Okay, so this is a public hearing. I'm opening the hearing at this time. Does any member of the council have any questions, comments, or concerns? If not, I'll go ahead and close the hearing at this time and ask, is there a motion to adopt resolution number 6460?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson and a second by Councilmember Francis. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next we're going to move on to item number 8C2. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor, sir, members of the City Council, agenda item 8C2 is resolution number 6461, acknowledging the receipt and filing of the annual statement of investment policy for fiscal year 2020-2021. City staff completed a review of its investment policy to ensure compliance with state and federal statutes, maximizing interest and minimizing risk. The purpose of the investment policy is to identify various policies and procedures that will foster a prudent and systematic investment program designed to seek the city objectives of safety, liquidity, and return on investment through a diversified investment portfolio. The policy also serves to organize and formalize the city's investment-related activities. The policy is written to incorporate industry best practices and recommendations from the sources such as the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA, California Municipal Treasurers Association, or CMTA, the California Debt and Investment Advisory Commission, or CDAC, and the Association of Public Treasurers. There is no financial impact. What's required is adopt resolution number 6461.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments? Okay, if not, can I get a motion to approve resolution number 6461?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Cascanian and a second by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay, next up is item number 8C3.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 8C3 is authorization to bind excess insurance coverage policies for fiscal year 2020-2021. Gardena is self-insured for general liability and workers' compensation insurance and obtains excess insurance coverage for extraordinary exposures in addition to commercial property, contractors' equipment insurance, and a crime bond for employees. Staff annually seeks renewal quotations and works diligently to ensure that adequate coverage is obtained at the best possible price. This year, insurance quotes were obtained through the city's Joint Powers Authority called PRISM, formerly known as CSAC EIA. The quote received from PRISM was an estimated premium of $1,352,770. We have itemized the coverage, the various coverage for the city on the actual agenda item. Staff recommends for City Council to authorize the purchase of the excess insurance coverage for fiscal year 2020-2021 at a total estimated cost of $1,352,770, including a $90,177 broker fee through the specified carriers, and authorize the city manager to execute the documents to bind the insurance policies. Financial impact is under the liability and workers' comp funds, $820,227. Enterprise funds, $532,543, with a total expenditure of $1,352,770. What's required is to authorize the city manager to purchase and bind excess insurance coverage as recommended by staff.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments?
Madam Mayor,
Cascadian?
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, previously we purchased excess insurance. That's correct.
Yes, every year we renew every year. Yes.
And how much do we pay last year or year before? Do we have?
So the prior year, so for this particular renewal period, we are paying about 13% more than the prior fiscal year. That's because of an aggregate, losses from, if you recall, the Woolsey fire, some other, claims out there that is impacted by the claims by our member cities. So we're paying about 13% more this year.
Okay, and right now, I mean, most of the insurance, they are giving discounted rates. I don't know if this will apply for this policy. Do you know?
This quote that we got is already discounted for our city. We've gone back to them and asked them for discounted rates as far as COVID-19, any relief that they can give. The reality is more claims are going to be out there. We ourselves are going to be claiming about $500,000 worth of reimbursement due to COVID-19. So imagine, I forget now how many member cities CSAC EIA has in their portfolio. Imagine all of them are going to be claiming $500,000 apiece. So
they might go bankrupt.
They are very big.
Okay.
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 Any more questions, comments?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. City Manager, in regards to the member cities of this Joint Powers Authority, roughly how many are there? And are we all sharing that 13% increase, or that's each of us getting hit with 13%?
So each city has their own. It's prorated as far as when you join. So obviously ours, we just joined. So I believe ours is a lot lower than some other cities that have incurred actual losses. For example, the Woolsey fire. Some of the cities out there that have been affected and they've claimed, their increase is going to be substantially more than ours. I don't recall. I don't have the data with me as far as the number of cities that are actually in our JPA. But we're talking about not just cities, but also counties and other entities, municipal entities out there other than cities. So it's not just limited to cities.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Okay, can I get a motion to authorize the city manager to bind the policies?
So move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson and a second by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
Mayor Serda.
Yes. Next up is item number 8C4.
Madam Mayor, may I just say something about this other item back here? I just for clarification for Mayor Pro Tem Henderson, there are the membership includes 70% of cities in California, and 55 of the 58 counties in California belong to this JPA.
Okay, and I just saw that again too.
Very large.
Oh, very large. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, Mayor, Sir, and members of the City Council, agenda item 8C4 is approval of the contract between the City of Gardena and Trio Community Meals for the provision of the Senior Community Action Meals Program, also known as SCAMP, for fiscal years 2020 to 2024. The selection was based on the information for bids, IFB, submissions through Planet Bids, and their ability to provide a quality service at a reasonable cost. Trio Community Meals was the lowest bid for the proposed services as illustrated in the bid comparison chart in the agenda item. Trio Community Meals has demonstrated a commitment for meeting compliance requirements of the County of Los Angeles Workforce Development, Aging, and Community Services, and the Area Agency on Aging. They also conform to nutritional requirements under the Title 3C of the Older Americans Act of 1965 and complies with the Hazard Analysis and Critical Control Point HACCP requirements, the Area Agency on Aging policies and procedures for senior nutrition sites, central kitchens, and home delivered meals. The anticipated expenditure is $318,138 per year for 4 fiscal years, totaling $1,272,552. The funding source is LA County Workforce Development, Aging, and Community Service. Again, this is a reimbursement basis, so right. So what's required tonight is approve the contract.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
Quick question, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. Mr.
Go ahead.
How do we ensure that we make sure that we service all our seniors with this or make sure no one gets missed when we provide meals?
So right now, all of our seniors that have expressed interest in this program we're serving. In the past, I believe we were in the neighborhood of about 250 to 300 seniors. We currently have 450 right now in our program, and there's no one on the wait list.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Question: Will this contract cover increases? Because I think as the economy, because of COVID and all the negative impact on the economy, I think we may have seniors that might find themselves in food insecurity positions. So if we need to increase, does this contract allow for an expansion of services?
We do have a provision with LA County to, just like what happened during the COVID-19 pandemic. Like I said, we were serving about 250 to 300 seniors. We incrementally increased that all the way up to now the 450. So there is room for increases on here.
Mm-hmm. And the 4-year contract, is that typical of 4 years? That's how long? Is that a typical time length for contract, or?
I don't recall the contract for the previous contractor, but 4 years is now. Director Santine, are you online to answer that question as far as a prior contract? Is this typical 4 years?
Yes, sorry, good evening, council members. Yes, it is typical for a 4-year contract. We had to go out to bid, and this is the new contract, or the new bidding cycle.
Okay.
So this is a new company.
This is a new company. The reason being is that the basically it's a cheaper price, so we were able to offer it to more seniors. The quality is obviously vetted through the LA County. Nutrition is vetted through the county, so you're not getting a inferior product or food just because they're cheaper. It's just that the pricing model is a little bit different, a little bit cheaper than the competition.
Okay.
Okay.
Once we're there, there's no way of getting out of it. This is it. If something happens, and
Unless they were to breach some of the terms of the contract, obviously, then we would be able to terminate the contract if they were found to be in breach.
all right, thank you.
Okay. I know in the past, I believe we were with Tender Love and Care Catering for a while, and when I'm looking at this, an attachment number 1, just a comparison chart, they just missed it by a little. I think each item, it's like a difference of like 29 cents, but You know, that's how it is when you're bidding. So, any more questions or comments? Okay, if not, can I get a motion to approve the contract?
So moved.
I'm sorry, that's Cascadian?
Yes.
Okay, who second?
I'll second. Henderson.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Cascadian and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. Will you call the roll, please?
It's a yes, but you are muted.
Councilmember Cascadian,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Henderson.
Anderson.
okay. The second is by Henderson.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry
And
about, yes, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
and Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay. Next up is item number, it's an add-on, item number 8C5.
Yes, Madam Mayor. We have an add-on item, agenda item number 8C5. And this is a request to add 8C5 to the agenda, approval of the side letter agreement between the city and the Gardena Municipal Employees Association, GMEA. And I'm just going to read through this agenda. Make finding that there is a need for immediate action, that the matter came to the city's attention after posting the agenda, and add item 8C5 to the agenda to approve the side letter agreement between the city and the Gardena Municipal Employees Association, or GMEA. A vote of not less than 2/3 or 4 out of 5 of the council members is required for passage. The COVID-19 pandemic has created an unforeseen and severe economic impact on the city. As such, the city has explored various options to save costs for the city's personnel costs. Following the posting of the June 23rd, 2020, the city was made aware that the Gardena Municipal Employees Association, or GMEA, had executed an attached side letter agreement wherein they agreed to a furlough, freezes and step increases, and deferring some cash outs of accrued leave. There is a need for immediate action as the parties intend for the agreement to take effect prior to the next regularly scheduled City Council meeting of July 14, 2020. Financial impact for fiscal year 2020-2021 is the general fund estimated savings of $3.3 million, G-Trans Enterprise Fund estimated savings of $1.28 million, the total estimated savings for fiscal year 2020-2021 of $4.58 million. What's required is approve the side letter.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments?
Madam Mayor, before we get into the substance of the matter, I first need you guys to take a vote on adding the matter to the agenda.
Right. Okay, thank you. So in the matter of item number 8C5, can I get a motion for to accept this item here?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. Will you call the roll, please?
Yes. Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascadian,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
and Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay. Now that it's on the agenda, does any member of the council have any questions or comments?
Madam Mayor, quick question for Mr. City Manager. So, Mr. City Manager, would this be estimated, or we haven't added this into our budget calculations yet? So this is new information?
No, Mayor Pro Tem, this is already included in the budget projections that, as you saw that tonight.
Okay, that's what the hard work came in. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any other comments? I mean, any questions? My only comment is I just want to say thank you to the different unions for doing this. This is awesome. So with that, I'll make the motion to approve this item here. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, I made the motion to approve this. And there was a second by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Serta,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
and Councilmember Francis.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next up is item number 8F1, Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 8F1 is resolution number 6458, approval of local agreement number CCTR-0080 with California Department of Education for fiscal year 2020-2021. Staff recommends that City Council approve local agreement CCTR-0080 and adopt resolution number 6458, authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute the agreement with the California Department of Education, which has been approved as to form by the city attorney. Contract amount of $2,790,447, which provides funding for the Gardena Family Childcare Program, or GFCC, for fiscal year 2020-2021. The contract amount may be amended following the approval of the state budget. GFCC provides quality educational subsidized childcare in licensed family childcare homes in Gardena and bordering cities. Services are provided to low-income families whose parents are employed, in school training, seeking employment, or are incapacitated and require assistance. GFCC not only works with children and families, but also offers technical assistance to family childcare providers in the GFCC network in areas such as curriculum, the childcare environment, behavioral problems, and developmental and age-appropriate practices. Revenue of $2,790,447 to the City of Gardena from the Department of Education for the Family Child Care Program. No, there is no cost to the general fund. What's required is adopt resolution number 6458 and approve local agreement number CCTR-008 with the Department of Education. So total number of families that are in the program right now is 141 families, and there are about 184 kids enrolled in the program.
Okay, thank you. 181 kids. Okay, are there any questions or comments?
Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Henderson, Mr. City
Go ahead.
Manager, in regards to these facilities being open, would we be exposed to any liability in regards to cleaning and PPE use by their staff?
Director Centine, if you would comment on that, my understanding is that all precautionary measures, including PPE, sanitary, cleaning, etc., will be, followed with guidelines from the LA County. But Director Centine?
I believe it would be the providers. We have 26 providers that would be responsible for that. So they have insurance under their agreement. I don't think the city would be liable.
Mayor Pro Tem, and we have indemnification clauses with all of those providers to indemnify the city.
All right, thank you.
Any more questions or comments?
I just have one question for children of our essential workers. Is there any provisions in here to accept new children or, add children to the list or?
Yeah, Director Centine, do you know if we are at capacity or do we have room for more?
Certain facilities can accept more children, but they have reduced some of their numbers due to the COVID restrictions. So they can apply. If anyone's interested, they can apply. And if we're able to accommodate them, we will.
Are we accommodating children of essential workers? Do they get any?
It all depends on the availability. But yes, if they qualify, then we would allow them into the program. So essential workers essentially would qualify.
Okay.
Any more questions or comments? Okay, if not, can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 6458?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Oh, okay, go ahead. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilwoman Francis and a second by Councilmember Cascanian.
Yes. Yes. Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is item number 8F2. Mr. City Manager?
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, agenda item 8F2 is resolution number 6462, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for supportive services program on behalf of the city for fiscal year 2020-2021. Staff respectfully recommends that City Council adopt resolution number 6462, designating the city manager as authorized to sign the supportive services program agreement for number SSP 192003, binding the city to the subaward and approve and accept subaward funds on behalf of the city. Approval of the resolution is necessary to execute the agreement between the County of Los Angeles and the City of Gardena. The program provides seniors with vital in-home care assistance, which includes case management, personal care, home care, and in-home respite. The funding amount allocated for the city for fiscal year 2020-2021 is $116,000. What's required is adopt resolution number 6462.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments?
Madam, I have one question. Mr. City Manager, how would a household apply for support services through this fund?
Director Santin, you're very popular tonight. Would you want to answer that question?
Hello? Okay. So they could call the senior bureau and then we could schedule an appointment.
Oh, okay, that's it. All right, thank you.
No problem.
Councilmember Tanaka?
Okay, so the quick question is, how much will this $116,000 last?
So the program is basically a referral program, and if there's ability to provide additional services, we will. But this is the referral program, so the case management. So as interviews are taking place or a meeting is taking place, then we refer them to opportunities for them to sign up for additional programs or services.
And how many did we help last year?
That's a good question. I don't have that number in front of me, but I can get back to you with it.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments?
So
go ahead. I'm sorry. Councilwoman.
I was just wondering, so essentially this is is financing a referral program, not actual services, but just to support, is that what we are?
It's a bit of both. So when you're doing the case management, if we're able to provide the services like Meals on Wheels, the congregate program, the Alzheimer's daycare, or even the personal care, we are able to provide some services. But in addition to that, sometimes there are services that they need, like affordable housing or services that we don't currently provide, then we would refer them to other agencies that do have those services available.
Thank you.
I just had one quick comment. I learned about this program maybe last year or the year before, and I thought it was really awesome just in the sense that it's available for our seniors if they need a ride to the doctor's office, help going grocery shopping, or maybe someone to go to the grocery store for them. So this is a great program that we have for our seniors, and hopefully everybody who needs the help is utilizing this because it's really great. And like was mentioned earlier, it's offered through our senior bureau. So that's my only comment. Any more questions, comments? If not, can I get a motion to adopt resolution number 6462?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody else?
Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
No, it's okay. You can go ahead. If you don't do it quick enough, I'll jump in.
I'll move back. I'll second.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Tanaka and a second by Councilmember Francis. Will you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is item number 8F3, Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, our last agenda item for this evening. Agenda item 8F3 is resolution number 6463, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement for the elderly nutrition program on behalf of the city for fiscal year 2020-2021. Staff respectfully recommends that the council adopt resolution number 6463, designating the city manager as authorized to sign the elderly nutrition program agreement number ENP 202105, binding the city to the subaward and approve and accept the subaward funds on behalf of the city. Approval of the resolution is necessary to execute agreement between the County of Los Angeles and the City of Gardena. The program includes serving congregate meals and home-delivered meals, as well as conducting telephone reassurance to the older adult population for fiscal year 2020-2021. The funding amount allocated for the city for fiscal year 2020-2021 is $407,000. What's required is adopt resolution number 6463.
Okay, any questions or comments? I just have one comment. I'm gonna stop commenting on every item here. I spoke with a resident last week, and she's one of the people who benefits from phone calls being made to check on them weekly. And she just said that our department is doing a superb job. In fact, she even named one of the people, Linda, who works in the department, that she really appreciates. Every Monday, she gets a phone call to see how she's doing, if there's anything that she needs. So again, this is something else that's great. And I just want to thank those in that department, and just know that as I've talked to people in the community, I'm hearing some really great things that we're out here doing. So thank you for that. Any other questions, comments? If not, can we get a motion to approve item number 6463? Okay, I'll make them. Okay, who said something?
Henderson.
Go ahead, Madam.
Okay, Henderson made the motion, and who second?
I'll second.
Francis.
Okay, Francis. Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Henderson and a second by Councilwoman Francis. Will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Francis,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
and Mayor Serta.
Yes. Okay. Moving on. Okay, so next up, item number 9CB, council directives. Does any member of the council have any directives at this time?
I do, Madam Mayor.
Councilmember Cascanian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I received in my packet today a memorandum regarding meeting in person, obviously with social distancing to be safe. I would like to, I don't know if any of my colleagues will second this. I would like to get this going on so we can meet in person if that's possible for the next meeting. So we can have our staff look into this and move on forward with it.
I'll second that.
And Councilmember Cascanian, just so I'm clear, this is only meeting in person for the council members. The chambers are still closed for the public pursuant to the order that the governor issued.
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
just during the closed session and during the council meeting, we're still going to be on separate locations or separate office, but we'll be in the city hall.
Okay, understood. We will get that item on the agenda for the next.
Thank you.
So this is Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. So in regards to the options available, we'll discuss that at the next meeting?
Correct, Councilman Henderson. That's
Okay.
what we will agendize it, and you will have a discussion, and then you can decide if there's options from that discussion that you guys can agree upon.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Say that again. What are the two options we're discussing?
So the item is going to be placed on the agenda for the next council meeting, and at that time, you guys have options. You guys can present various options that you may have, and then you may choose to make a motion on one of the options that you guys may decide upon.
Okay, thank you.
But we won't be in person next meeting then.
You will not be in person next meeting, correct?
Got it.
Okay, understood. Okay. Any more directives?
Madam Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Mhm.
In regards to our abandoned property ordinance, I was wondering if Madam City Attorney, I would love a second on this. Could we investigate or research the possibilities if we've actually dinged your property with some sort of weed abatement fee or something like that, and we've done you 3 or 4 times in a year, what's our legal responsibility to require that property owner to actually then raise that property so it's not abandoned building, it's just a vacant lot?
We can take a look into it. I mean, one of the alternatives that's available is a receivership. I will tell you, it's a very difficult and high standard to be able to obtain a receivership, which is basically where you go into court and you argue to the court that the city should, a receiver should be appointed to take over the property because the landlord is not able to maintain the property. Given the current situation, with a lot of business owners not having rental income and just all the financial situations and the courts being, closed to some extent at the current time, it's a very, very high standard. It is overall, it's always a very high standard to get a receiver appointed, but it is something that we can look into on a case-by-case basis depending on the property.
Oh, okay.
I'll second that for you, Mark.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not sure, just for clarification, is the directive to look into what are the options?
Yes, directive to look into the options to see if we can have a discussion about that moving forward.
Okay,
Figure out how we can leverage. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any more directives?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Last council meeting, I asked about looking into requiring a police officer to have mandated psychological evaluation, annual psychological evaluations. I thought we were going to look into that or come back with a report.
Councilman Francis, my understanding from the directive that we were going to look into legislation at the state and federal level with regards to it. And I am still looking at that. As you know, currently, the various, at the federal level and at the state level, there's different discussions that are going on. And so it seems like the ball is rolling as to different items that can be potentially that they're looking into. I feel that, I am looking into that though, and specifically as to what you asked, whether there's any discussions as to the federal and state discussing the requirements that you mentioned.
Thank you. Okay, that's one. I have 2 more. I will
Okay.
take the time. Okay, my next one is to ask that the Gardena Chief of Police and to work with the Gardena Police Association to review all previous incidents of alleged police brutality, misconduct, or violation of the law. And this effort should include reviewing associated policies and procedures to develop public policies, procedures, and laws that will assist the police chief in identifying and eliminating police officers with behavior traits that could lead to abuse of police power and authority. And I'm also asking that this report includes recommendations for increasing transparency, training, and accountability of officers, including periodic background checks of police officers with excessive reports of abuse of power.
Can I add something to that, to Councilwoman Francis, in regards to these things? These are some of the byproducts that we were hoping would come out of the actual panel that we're going to engage and develop, so that can be some of their tasks to actually respond to some of that issue in regards to, after we get some community input from the listening tour. In our packet, we got a calendar of this being kicked off in July and everything. And I think as we start to develop this panel, we can make those some of the actual items that the panel then addresses. So would you be okay with that being part of the incorporation of this larger police initiative we're trying to do?
Well, certainly, I think we should take in consideration the stakeholders, community stakeholders, but I think that we should still work with the Chief of Police and the Police Officer Association and Gardena City Council to move forward with this particular item that I'm mentioning. I'm not, I think, as I said, input from community stakeholders would be a part of that report, but I think it's important. I think this is an opportunity for our police department to evaluate what we do, take a look at the past, where we've been, where we are right now, and where we're headed in the future. And I think that we have this perfect storm. There's an opportunity for us to take a look at that. And I think, looking at ourselves and what we do and how we do it isn't a bad idea. I'm not, by and large, I believe we have, there are a lot of good police officers that work for Gardena Police Department. I believe we're very fortunate of that. But also, if there are issues, I think we should do all we can to take care of it before it does become a problem.
Right, I agree. I think ultimately we're going to be responsible, but I'm of the mindset of letting the community work with the police. I mean, we still have oversight ultimately, but let the community work with the police chief and everything. That way, folks don't believe that the council or leadership is trying to shade it one way or the other. So we kind of become independent of this whole thing.
As I said, I don't disagree about their input. However, I think that it's important that that our police officers take a look themselves and not leave it solely to the community, because after all, our police officers are the professionals, and if anybody knows a lot about what it is that they do, I think they know it, and certainly taking into account the input. But I think if that input is going to result in any action, it has to come from our officers and our city council. So I'm not suggesting that we don't take into account the input, just that the direction should come from the Police Officer Association and the Guardian Chief Police, as I said.
Is there a second on that? Okay, I'm sorry, at this time, there's not a second on that directive.
No problem.
Are there any other directives at this time?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
During the campaign, I want to ask the Guardian City Council to develop policies that prohibit the use of city property or resources for campaign purposes. In the most recent election, there were several candidates raised concerns about the city of Gardena leasing city property to the Gardena Police Officer Association for political campaign purposes, and I'm not quite sure whether it's well, I think it sure is a violation of public trust for sure, because it by that association, it would imply that the city of Gardena is supporting a particular candidate or particular association recommendation, but it also opens it up to problems in the future, because if we lease property to one particular campaign, then we have to rent to others as well. And so I think it's just wise. And also, I think it may be illegal. I'm not quite sure, but we might want to take a look at that. It may just be outright illegal. So besides that, I think it's just not good public policy. And so I'm asking that we take a look at that.
I'll second that. Let's take a look at that.
Okay, it's been second.
So, we'll develop policies. So it's going to read that we develop policies prohibit city property or resources to be used for campaign purposes and renting that out.
Okay. Are there any more directives at this time?
No,
Okay.
that'll take care of me for now. Thank you.
Got it. Okay. So I have two, and the second one may not even be a directive. The first one is the person who during oral communications, they had some questions in regards to storage facilities, as far as, I guess the right term is kind of like being evicted out of there. If we could maybe take a look at maybe seeing if it's feasible to maybe slow the process down some, similar to what we did with the those who are renting, apartments or houses and so on. From their landlords, because I guess in thinking about it in hindsight, if you lose your job or you're not able to pay, your items being thrown out, that's kind of a touchy thing there. So if we could look at that option, if that's something that we may want to consider adding, to our ordinance, like what we did with the renting of properties there. Or as far as paying, to keep from getting evicted. Is there a second?
Yeah, I was going to add that. I forgot. Yeah, I'll second that, Madam Mayor. I forgot to add that in my directive.
Okay, thank you. And then the last directive I have, and I know we've talked about it extensively, but it's in regards to the fireworks. So I've been looking at what other cities are doing because these fireworks have gotten ridiculous, and I've gotten a ton of emails from residents. And I'm looking at things that like the city of Pasadena is doing, and I'm looking up some information, something called Snapshot or something like that, where they have equipment where they can determine and pinpoint. And I don't know if that's for gunshots or fireworks because it says both. Where they can determine, I think even the sheriff uses something like this. They can determine where the fireworks actually going off. I guess pinpoint down to the block that it's on. And then other cities like Linwood, their fine is like $5,000 versus like ours is $1,000. So maybe we can look at how we can go about in raising it for the illegal fireworks. And then the other thing is in the city of Pasadena, they have a task force there, which is comprised of their police and fire department. I know they have an independent fire department, so they're not under contract with LA County. But in this task force, when they catch somebody with illegal fireworks, not only do they confiscate the fireworks, but they also charge for the disposal of it, the time that, for the call going out. And so they tack on several different fees. So I'd like to see if we can look into something that we could do a little bit more because, again, these fireworks have just gotten to be so unreasonable. And I just think we need something with a little bit more teeth to it. So if we could consider looking at that, hopefully I'll get a second on that.
Well, I'll give you a second, but Madam City Attorney, is the use of drones a privacy issue?
There are some drones that are there's some task force that have drones in their, as part of their police department. I haven't checked with our chief if we belong to a task force that have it, but there are some privacy implications as well. I do know that for some task force within law enforcement, they are using the use of drones. There are some pilot programs. There are obviously some costs affiliated with that as well.
Right. Well, the biggest problem that we find is that when people call, it's hard to pinpoint it. And by the time officers get there on our task force, the people are gone. And it's hard to arrest anybody if you can't find them. So that's why maybe the possibility of using drones in those aerial shots might help us. So I would add that, and I'll second.
Okay, that's fine. Are there any more directives at this time?
Madam Mayor, this is Mayor Pro Tem Henderson. Just a quick one. Mr. City Manager, if we could you send us all in our packet a presentation we got some time ago from HDL? It was regarding, I wanted to say, what was it, like different revenue streams for pharmaceuticals or something like that. It was a presentation we had like some time ago. Could you get that for us?
Are you referring to the study session we had with HDL?
Yeah, but it wasn't around them building something. I think it was around cannabis or something.
Okay.
I just want to look back. I remember we had a presentation, but I don't think we got it and I can't find it. I just wanted to look through that.
We're going to get a second.
Oh.
I thought it was just asking for some material.
Well, yeah, just asking for some read material for us.
Oh, I mean, I don't think, so we don't need a second
Yeah,
step, right?
just if you could send that to us.
Oh, okay, my apologies. Okay. A long night. Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to make a decision. I just kind of want to just read through that and everything.
Okay.
Okay, any more directives? Okay, so we're going to close the directives at this time. Now we're going to turn it over to the city manager remarks regarding our previous directives.
Mayor, sir, the members of the city council, I have a number of items that's been sent to your attention. First one I'm going to go over is a memo from our chief of police regarding our 4th of July plan and what we're doing to essentially mitigate the effects of fireworks in our city. We're basically deploying one unit to enforce laws on illegal fireworks, setting off fireworks, and that unit is one of our SEU, Special Enforcement Unit, which comprises of 5 officers and 1 sergeant. What needs to be what we need to remember is that our officers need to witness the setting off of the fireworks before they can do any action. If somebody reports that and, they get there and no one's there, or people are just standing around, there's not much that our officers can do about it. So we have that for you. The second one is in response to Mayor Pro Tem Henderson's directive regarding the the collaborative listening tour. Chief Sapel has provided some dates for our listening tour. District 1 will be on July 11th. District 2 would be July 18th, and District 3 is July 25th. We also have a memo for you on the 8 Can't Wait campaign. Chief Sapel has provided a comprehensive write-up on that particular topic. That's also in your packet. This has already been mentioned, the options for an in-person closed session meeting. We did receive a complaint regarding a homeless encampment forming behind Ralph's store. We have a report for you there from Chief Sapel. And then we have, this is a little disturbing. We received a report of a possible news on a tow hitch on a pickup truck. Our officers, one of our sergeants went out there based on the license plate on the picture. We were able to contact the owner of the truck. The owner of the truck quickly explained that his son uses the rope for camping purposes, and it just so happens to have been tied on a noose-like type of configuration. He was embarrassed of the situation, and he immediately offered to remove the rope. Our sergeant went out there and inspected the rope and confirmed that it was not a noose. That's based on sergeant's assessment of how the rope was tied, and he confirmed that it was not a noose.
Thank you for the quick action on that, Mr. City Manager, as well. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Again, we wanted to offer our condolences to the Guardado family. Again, this is the tragic death by Mr. Guardado. This incident occurred at 420 West Redondo Beach Boulevard, which is east of our city boundary limits. I know that the news media has repeatedly called it the Gardena because of the zip code. When you punch it in, it does come out with a Gardena zip code, but we can assure you that our officers do not patrol and was not involved in that incident. And likewise, LASD, the Sheriff's Department, does not patrol in our city. So we just wanted to put that out there to our condolences to the Guardado family. And last but not least, we have a meals and masks drive-through giveaway on Saturday, June 27, 2020. It's 9 a.m. until we run out here at the City Hall complex. Madam Mayor, that ends my City Manager communication.
Okay, thank you. So next up are council remarks. We're going to begin tonight with Councilmember Cascanian.
Yes, Madam Mayor, since the hour being too long, almost 10:30, I just want to report that I did attend our Finance Committee meeting, and everybody's seen the numbers. Usually I do report we are in a great situation. We have good money, nothing to worry about, but it's obviously out there. You've seen the numbers, you witnessed it, where we're standing at. So we just have to spend the money wisely. And I would like to special thanks to our all unions, the employees, managers, directors, the employees, that we are in it on this, all of us. So we're in it together, basically. So thank you for cooperating. Thank you for, standing shoulder by shoulder to fight this, and this should pass too as well. And Madam Mayor, that's ends my report. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Next up is Councilmember Tanaka.
Oh, let me get my thing off here. Okay. Oh, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Well, since our last, attended the study session with the city council, and I attended the Father's Day celebration that the city put on. Thank you, Stephanie, and your staff for doing a great job on that. And I just want to thank the city manager and his financial staff for the budget preparation. I read that whole thing. It was one of the better ones that I've seen, and I appreciate all the information that was in it. And most of all, I want to thank all the unions that stepped up to help the city out in this time. I was a part of the city when we were out of money, when we had almost an F rating and things were tough, and all the unions stuck together and everybody kind of towed the line, and we forewent our colas, our raises, everything that they're kind of doing now, but it was worse then. And I know what they're going through. I know how they're feeling, but I really do appreciate all that they've done to step up to help us, because if you look at that budget tonight, it's a far cry from what it was when the city manager first put that out. Right now, we're looking much, much better. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And I know he's got some things that he's working on that hopefully, we can actually get back to some normalcy. But thank you very much. I appreciate all you guys have done. So that ends my report.
Thank you. Next up is Mayor Pro Tem Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Because the hour is long, I won't be long myself. I want to also reiterate what everyone else said about the labor groups coming together to kind of work us all through that. That really means a lot. That definitely shows that we're a collective family as I'm listening to the fireworks go off in my neighborhood. The other thing I want to say is I had my ICA meeting, and I was able to get the 40 cities to sign on to the what was that, the SCA or ACA or SGA?
OCA.
What is it? What is it?
I think it's the LCA.
It's the LCA.
SCA 6.
Yeah, the Sports Wagering Act and everything. So we're able to get all 40 cities to sign on that. That's a JPA that the mayor's I think she sits on as chair and everything. So that opportunity will allow us, if that goes all the way through, for local card clubs to start participating in sports wagering, which then also actually works to bring more revenue in as well. So we had spirited discussion. It was great. One of our colleagues from the city of Montebello, Councilman Jack, I like to call him Handsome Jack, he actually had a breakdown of where a lot of our card club employees, what cities they reside in. And actually a lot of our employees reside all over LA County. So it was a no-brainer for everybody to want to participate and sign on with that. So that was great to kind of get that through. So Madam Mayor, so we're behind you on that. So now you got to take it the rest of the way. And at the Father's Day celebration, that was a great thing. Hope everybody had an enjoyable Father's Day. I've been under the weather a little bit, but we still got work to do. So ends more. I take that back. I was at SCAG, my legislative committee meeting, and we're working on setting our calendar for our legislative calendar for this next year. I'm going to push our local control. Everybody knows I'm a local control advocate as much as we can as we get pushed around with housing issues and everything like that. So that's kind of my cause to make sure that local control does remain with the local jurisdiction. So I'll keep that fight going. So ends my report.
Okay, thank you. And for myself, since the last council meeting, a couple of meetings I attended via Zoom. But first off, I just want to say to those who are watching this, as it relates to fireworks, I know we already talked about it extensively here, but for those of you who've been emailing, texting, and calling me about the problems with fireworks, keep calling it in to the police department when you hear this so that they will come out. Don't just assume your neighbor is taking care of it, or calling me, because sometimes I'm not always in the city. But if you hear these concerns, please call our police non-emergency number and let them know so that they can better coordinate this and hopefully stop it. So that's the first thing. But just know that I am getting your emails and your calls and concerns. And yes, it is still an issue. Since the last council meeting, I attended my monthly CCGA meeting. I also attended my sanitation meeting and finance committee meeting on last Thursday, our study session, And as well as I was happy to participate in the Father's Day video that we put together. And hopefully all of my colleagues, as well as those in Gardena, had a happy and wonderful Father's Day, and even to my dad, happy Father's Day as well. So I think the last thing I did was I was one of the speakers at the Gardena High School virtual graduation, and that was quite interesting.
Nice.
And I also just like to just send a special congratulations to all the graduates. Again, I know our students have been graduating from May all the way through June, from college all down to elementary school, junior high, and high school. But just congratulations to all of you guys. And hopefully we'll never have to experience a COVID-19 where you'll have to have a virtual graduation like this. But, you know, as I told the students in the Gardena High School graduation, this will be something that'll be so unique, and you'll be able to tell your kids about this and grandkids. You know, I graduated in a virtual graduation during the COVID pandemic. So that's about it. That ends my report. And next up is Councilmember Francis.
Thank you. Okay, I thought you were going to forget all about me.
No.
Of course not. Anyway, I hope everyone had a wonderful Father's Day, and I'd like to thank Stephanie and Nikki and Miss Pauline and Miss Janita for putting together the Happy Father's Day display and Happy Father's Day video. I also attended the regional meeting of Los Angeles County Democratic Party to see where we're heading in that direction. We do have a presidential election upcoming in November. And also had a conversation with Dean Logan, our county recorder and registrar, about voter placement in Gardena in general, but in North Gardena specifically. And we had a good conversation. He was glad that I forwarded a letter to him and said, you know, you sent your letter at the perfect time, because we're going to be having that conversation very soon, as in over the next couple of days. So I was really happy about that. And I will be attending the City Clerk Summit with our city clerk and our deputy clerks. I'm excited about that. And let's see, last but not least, by the time we get together again, we will have celebrated another 4th of July. And given all the things that are going on in our current affairs, this particular 4th of July takes on a new meaning. And I hope that we all take an opportunity to look at where we've been and where we're headed, and things that we're doing right now, especially in terms of how we police our communities. And I won't say more about that, but have a good 4th of July.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to reiterate. I'm sorry.
Just tell the number for the non-emergency police number. Does anybody know that? It's 310-323
7911.
7911. So 310-323-7911. I'll say it one more time. 310-323-7911 is the non-emergency police number, and you can call the report fireworks. They since we're talking about it, it bothered me so much the other night. I got in my car and I drove around. I found most of them, but oh my goodness, it seems to be citywide, and just bear with us. I assure you, we're doing all we can. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. So under announcements, I just want to reiterate this one more time. The city manager already said it, but the city of Gardena will have Meals and Mass drive-through giveaway on this coming Saturday, June 27, 2020, from 9 a.m. until they run out. It will be at the City Hall complex, which is at 1700 West 162nd Street. And in order to comply with physical distancing, no walk-ups will be allowed. Please do not line up until 8:45 a.m. to reduce the vehicle wait time. Okay. So next, we're going to move on to remembrances tonight. Tonight, we'll be adjourning in memory of 2 people, and it definitely saddens my heart because both of these people were friends of mine. The first one we'll be adjourning in memory of is Mr. Ellis Fears, who was 89 years of age. He lived in the city of Gardena for 35 years. Mr. Fears was a veteran. He participated in the Korean War and was a member of the Kashmir Gatekeepers Block Watch. We're also going to adjourn in memory of Mr. Oscar Warren, who was 82 years of age. He was the beloved grandfather of our Gardena Youth Commissioner, Kamaya Elias, and a longtime resident of Gardena. Mr. Warren participated in many programs, activities, sports leagues, events, and organizations such as the Holly Park Homeowners Association and Second Time Around Senior Club. He was truly a Gardena spirit that has left his legacy for the city and his family to cherish for years to come. So at this time, we're going to move on to our adjournment. The Gardena City Council will adjourn to the special study session at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, June 30th, 2020. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.